Yeah, that's probably the best way you could do it. Okay, so we're going to do some newish stuff today, as we always do, because, university doesn't stop, unfortunately. And we've got some stuff to get through. But afterwards, of course, we'll have office hours, and then anyone who wants to, ask questions about anything, absolutely, we can talk about it in office hours. Oh, you know what? I shared the wrong thing. Let me just share again. So I want to share my screen. All right. So first thing we're going to do is this one. There's a lot of writing here, but don't be intimidated. It's just like, it's explaining the rules to you. This term test has 3 questions. Yep. And Victoria, in fact, like if you check, you can see that the front page of the test is actually available on the thing. Like in the test information slot, there's a little thing that says, here's the front page of the test.
I think you might have unplugged your headphones or something, Tyler, because as everyone's saying in the chat, we can't hear you anymore. I can't tell if his mic got unplugged or his whole, I think his whole system got stuck. Yeah, if I had to guess, I think it's the latter. I mean, regardless, you still have some time to work on this question right here while Tyler comes back in. Feels bad for Tyler. Yeah, I don't know. He has a lot of these. He has them like once every while. It gets kind of annoying. I know he's not the biggest fan. But keep in mind, his surface is still connected, so you guys should still be able to see the question and solve the question. But he should be joining back in a few minutes, like in a minute or so.
Maddening. Just maddening. Makes me so angry.
I was just about to tell them, if you want to hear Tyler get annoyed about something, just talk to him about Windows for a few minutes. And
Yep, can't stand it. No, the issue here isn't Windows. The issue here is actually, I think it's Zoom, because like Zoom, it just crashes, I think, X, which is the Windows server. And so like my mouse and everything still works, but nothing else works. Curdy, yeah, numbers can repeat unless it explicitly says they can't, right? So you should always assume that, right, the rules are absolute. So unless the rules say you can't do something, then you can do whatever you want. So the rules will just trust the rules. So 1-1 is not allowed. MacBooks, I don't know. I've never really had a MacBook. As a general rule, I'm not a fan. I kind of flip and flop, right? Like I feel, what was I saying about the test? I don't remember. I was basically just saying don't cheat, right?
No, I think you were just saying if you go to look at the front page on the on the test, you'll see that it says, I'm pretty sure it says on there's going to be 3 questions, and you have basically 4 hours to write it.
Yeah. Yeah, the front page is on the test, so you can see what it says, and it includes the number of questions. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like Mac things are interesting just because one, I mean, like on the one hand, Apple can be super evil in some of the things that it does. listen, I'm not saying, Apple makes a good product. I think in a lot of cases, it's like super user friendly. So if you're not a power user, it's a good sort of thing. But it's infuriating that I just can't set things on Apple devices, right? Like there are some settings that I should be able to access that I can't. One thing that really drives me insane is, and this isn't MacBook specific, but like the Apple is really fighting right to repair. You know what I mean? So if you go and you break your phone, it's becoming harder and harder to just take it to somebody and have them replace the screen for you. I think I saw something about like for the iPhone 13, the motherboard basically keeps track of the serial numbers for things like your screen and your SIM card reader. And so if you try to have a third party replace it, the software will actually shut those things down, not the hardware. So they could perfectly work. But basically, unless you get it fixed by Apple, no repairs will function, right?
They're just a money grab. That's the problem.
Yeah. And I think that's just like, I fundamentally disagree with that and refuse to participate in that, right?
I agree. I don't own a single Apple product myself either, so.
Yeah. And I mean, there are pros and cons. I think there are, for some people out there who definitely are just like, I want things to work right away and not have to worry about it. And absolutely, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And for those people, Windows and Apple are maybe the right thing to have. And again, I'm not going to like judge anyone for that, but it's not for me, right? Like I want my stuff to do exactly what I tell it to do always. And if that means I have to spend like an hour playing around with settings, I'm happy to do that. But like, that's not, you just can't do that with Apple or Windows, or frankly with Android. Right? Like there are stuff you can do with Android. It's certainly nice, but it's also true of Android, right? Android locks a lot of stuff down for you. Right now I'm on Ubuntu, but I'm using i3 as my Windows manager. So I hate GNOME. And I only tend to use tiling Windows manager, but I'm not gonna like go learn Haskell so I can, code Xmonad. So.
I can guarantee you like 90% of the people did not know what the last two sentences you said were.
Yeah, and that's fine. That's okay. Do I use virtual machines? I can. Yeah, I do on occasion. I'm going to close the polls, by the way, everyone, in about 30 seconds. So try and get your answers in. Yeah, I mean, like, at one time I took my laptop, right? You guys remember my laptop was giving me trouble. And I took it in for repairs, and the guy was like, okay, give me your password so I can log in. I said, it's not going to make any difference, man. You can't use my computer. You wouldn't know how. Like, even if you were fluent in like Linux and everything, you just wouldn't even know how to open a terminal. Like there was nothing you could do, right? Where are we? Okay, I think it's time to finish it. Only about 60%. Oh, there's a couple coming in. I always hesitant to hit end poll because there might be a couple people come in right at the end there. So we're at 64% participation, and that's about as uniform as it could be, right? I'm not even certain what the consensus is. It looks like we're leaning a little bit towards D, but there's a lot of people on A, B, and C as well. Okay, so let's go through this. Let's try and figure out what the heck happened here. What does the basic counting principle say? Right? Because that's what we're using here. We're using the basic counting principle. That's what this question is trying to test. What are we trying to do? Should I copy the question in? Maybe I should copy the question in. There's just a lot of rules, right? So it occurs to me, maybe I should do that just so that we have it in front of us. Yeah. That's what we need. Let's put that in. Beautiful. Okay, perfect. Okay, so what I want to do is I just want to count the number of possibilities for each of these numbers or digits or whatever the case could be, right? So I'm told capital N can be any number except 0 or 1. So how many options are there for capital N? There's 8, right? Exactly. So there are 10 possible digits. You're not allowed to use 2 of them. You don't need to write them all out, right? There's no kind of value in doing that. All you need to do is count how many things can you have for N. So N can be any of 8 things, right? So there are 8 options for N. Okay, how many options are there for P? Maybe let me write this as like N colon. Okay, how many options are there for P? 9, okay, good. I didn't even like looked up. That's true, Curdy. There are two ends. Maybe, and if you want to attack it like that, that's totally great. I don't think there's any issue with that. But I am going to just figure out how many options I have for each rule first. Okay, now YY here does occur in a pair, right? There's two YYs. So for YY, we're told you can be anything except both numbers can't be 1. So how many options do I have? Okay, right. Yeah, there are 99 options. Exactly. Yeah, Avi, 10 squared minus 1, right? So there are 99 options, right? Because there would be 10, and exactly as kind of Avi wrote down, there would be 10 choices for the first Y and 10 choices for the second Y. So that's 100 options. And we know that's true, right? Because I say, how many 2-digit numbers are there? You might say, or there's 100 because you can include 0, 0, right? So don't forget 0, 0. And then you say, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of the bad option, right? So there's only one bad thing that I'm not allowed to have, so I'm going to throw it out, right? So there's 10 squared options total minus 1 bad option, right? And that bad thing is 1, 1. That makes sense? Okay. And for X, how many options are there? Okay, so Jeremiah, that's total. You're absolutely right. You kind of jumped the gun on me, but just for a single X, yeah, 10. Okay, perfect. So when I look at NPX, NYY, these are the real rules, by the way. I don't know if you guys know this. Like, these are the actual rules. Why not 9 times 9? So, okay, this is a good question. Why? Here, let me finish it first, Agamemnon, then I'll come back to why it's not 9 times 9. Okay, so I've got 8 options for this. I've got 9 for this. I've got 10 for this. And basic counting rule says you just multiply, right? Times 8 for the N, times 99 for the Y, times 10, times 10, times 10, times 10, right? For each of these. And basic counting rule says that this is the total number. So if you add all these up and you simplify, like you could leave it like this, or if you were going to compute it, you could just do that. But obviously the options that we gave kind of tried to collect things together. So 8 squared times 9 times 99 times 10 to the power of 5. Okay, so this was option D. Now, Agam, so why 9 times 9? So maybe the more interesting question is, why do you think it's 9 times 9? What I think you're saying here when you say 9 times 9 is you're saying, well, the first number can't be 1 and the second number can't be 1. So there's 9 options for each. Is that fair? Is that kind of like the reasoning behind that? Okay. So, but notice the number for YY, the number 17 is totally allowed, right? The only number that's not allowed is both numbers can't be 1. So you're not allowed to have 1, 1 together, but you are allowed to have, 1, 2, 1, 3. All these numbers can be together. 1, 7, 1, 8, 1, 9, 21, 31, 41, 51. So when you say 9 times 9, you're throwing away all these numbers, but these numbers are allowed. 71, 81, 91. Does that make sense? Exactly. So when you do 9 times 9, you're taking out all the ones. But the only one that you're not allowed to have is the 1, 1 option, right? 11 can't show up. Does that make sense, Agam? And Curdy, right? Like 9 times 9 takes away all the ones, right? So 9 times 9 equals no ones anywhere. Right? So we took away too many ones because the only 2-digit number that we weren't allowed to have was the 11. You have to take the 11. Yeah, okay. So yeah, Ain, that's a great way of saying it. And if you don't mind, I'm just going to say it out loud, which is basically you have 100 options and you took away the one bad one, right? Which is the 11. So that's exactly it, right? And that's what I was trying to say up here, right? You have 100 options, right? 10 squared is 100. You have 100 options and then you get rid of the 11, right? Remove the 11. That gives you 99 options. That's good? That makes sense? And then you just multiply them all together. Okay, cool. So here, let's do this one now. I like this one. We have to change the picture every year, but I think it's okay. Okay, you should have seen the original picture we did for this one. Oh, did I not share the results? There you go. There's the results. So originally, when I took this photo the first time, I didn't tell anyone I was taking it, and then I put it into the slides, and everyone was like half blinking, and so they got angry at me, and they said, "No, you have to retake the picture." So, and you have to tell us that you're going to take the picture. This was last Wednesday, I think, right? So not yesterday, but the week before, because we meet the week before and we talk about, when we make the test and we make the assignments and we go over the poll questions and we add some poll questions, we remove some poll questions. So in that meeting, we took it. This goes hard. Brandon, I'm not certain what that means. Maybe I just misunderstood it.
It's lingo. It means it's a great picture.
Okay, good.
It is a great picture, though. I can agree with you.
Yeah, I guess I'm getting old, eh? I'm starting to fall out of the lingo. I don't get it.
I don't think so. I feel like you're within like 15 years of the group of people. You're not considered old.
Well, no, that's just it. I'm like, I am actually beyond 15 years now. If
no,
like,
you're not.
I mean, okay. Is anyone here 18? Okay, I'm 34, just about 35. So okay, I am beyond 15 years, right?
Father, I'm sorry, you're old.
Yeah.
Close to my mom's age. Jesus. Okay, never mind. I'm 24, so like at this point I'm nearly 6 years older than them, which is crazy to think, because I still think of myself as like a university student more than anything else.
I mean, yeah, the reality is I don't even think of myself as being that old, right? Like I think about, for example, when my mother was my age, right? And when my mother was my age, I was 10, right? And yeah, I can't imagine having a 10-year-old child, right? Like that's insane to me. Like having a little 10-year-old running around, right? I should be younger than your parents. I guess that's the next scary thing that will happen, is when I actually start, and when I'm older than the parents of my students. That will be the scary part, right? I have I play hockey with a guy, his name's Darwin. And I thought Darwin was younger than me. And this was probably 3 or 4 years ago. We asked him how old he was. And he's like, yeah, I'm like 43 or 44 or something. And we all thought he was in his 20s. Like he looked phenomenal. Like he was so good. My mother, she came out for when I graduated undergraduate, right? So when I finished my undergraduate degree, my mother came out to Ontario. And so at the time she would have been, so I guess she was 46 at the time. And she got carded in every liquor store she went into. So every time she went into a liquor store, she got carded at 46 years old.
That's some great genes.
I guess so. We joke it's the Asian in me, right? That I look old or I look young, but then one day I will instantly age. So yeah, okay. So I got a question. Do you mind asking me what your background is? Yeah, I don't mind. So I'm half Japanese, and my other half is miscellaneous white. There's like some French in there, some Scottish, some English, but yeah, my colored half is Japanese. But like, and yeah, by the way, so we'll close the polls in about 40 seconds. So I'm Japanese, but my family is so far removed from Japan, right? Like my Japanese grandparents were born in Canada, right? So like I don't identify at all with being Japanese, just because we haven't been Japanese forever. And I mean, there's sad, depending on any of you who know the history of Canada, right? So the Japanese culture was kind of like lost in my family very, very quickly, because so both of my grandparents were actually interned during World War II, right? They were put into the Japanese internment camps in Canada. And so when they came out of these camps, they decided that, like, the entire Japanese Canadian community decided to basically just fully assimilate in order to kind of prevent this from happening for to their children. And so as a result, they didn't teach any of my aunts or uncles or anything like that the language. They didn't teach them any of the culture whatsoever. So, my aunts and uncles and everything grew up basically being with no Japanese culture whatsoever. So it was erased after my grandparents' generation, because that generation made the conscious effort to not put their kids through that. And to not like have them be different than everyone else, out of fear that something like this could happen again. And the interesting thing is that this happened almost universally, right? Like that without anyone discussing it, almost every Japanese Canadian family did this. So there are still a lot of Japanese Canadians in the world. They do exist, but a lot of that culture has kind of disappeared, and it is sad. But like I said, I don't, at the same time, when people ask me what I am, because they can see that I'm not, white per se, they say, what are you? I say, oh, I'm Canadian, right? We'll say, well, no, what are you, like, what are you really? I say, no, I'm Canadian. Like, you know what I mean? We've just been Canadian for so long. So that's what I am. And, sometimes I do worry about telling, especially my first year students, I do sometimes worry about telling you that I do have Japanese background, because I know that there are many of you for whom Japan has historically not been great to you, right? Especially those of you of Chinese descent. Japan has done some truly terrible things to the Chinese people historically. But yeah, I like to think that none of you will try to like project that onto me. At least I hope so, right? That's my hope. Okay, so we've got this we've got this 2x2 grid of people. And actually the shape of this thing doesn't matter at all, right? But we've got this 2x2 grid. So we've got 4 options. And we're saying, how many ways can you arrange the instructors? Now, implicit in this question, so this is question 8, by the way. Let me just write that out. So question 8. So implicit in this question is that you can't repeat, right? Does that make sense? Like you might want to, but you can't put my face on all 4 screens, right? That just doesn't make sense. You have to rearrange us. So there's implicitly no repetition. Does everyone agree? Does that make sense? Right? Okay, so let's look at the top. Let's look at the top left-hand corner here. How many options do we have for the top left-hand corner? Like how many of instructors could you put there? Okay, great. So there's 4 options here. How about for the top right-hand corner? Right, there's 3, because once we've chosen one, we can't use it again, right? And then, okay, this is everyone's getting like really ahead of me here. There's 2 and there's 1. Ali, I can certainly try, but last time I did this, I make no promises, because the last time I did this, I actually had to stop it because it was so bad. Like it started to really lag it. Okay, so I'm going to try it, but if it starts to slow down my system that I can't actually do anything anymore, I am going to turn off the auto caption. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to try this and we'll see if it works. Okay. So what is, okay, if you say so. I mean, I just turned them on, but if you say so. Huzaifa, exactly. So there's 4 factorial options, right? Because there's 4 times 3 times 2 times 1 options. So that gives you, no problem. So that gives you 4 factorial possibilities. Does everyone agree? And that was option B. Okay, so if you chose B, you got the correct answer. Some of you might have chosen A. A would have been the correct answer if you could repeat, right? So A is the correct answer if you could put my face on every screen, or TJ's face on all the screens, or some combination of that. But because we don't have that repetition, it's not 4 for each screen. It becomes 4 times 3 times 2 times 1, like that. Exactly, Jack, thank you. Yeah, it was 256, or 4 to the power of 4, right? Okay, so any questions about that? That makes sense? Okay, great. We're Okay, we're going to step it up a little bit. Going to get a little bit tougher. Whoa, too far. Yeah, let's do this one. This is a good one, I think. Oh, by the way, for this one, everyone, you can assume that everyone can play every instrument. Okay, so don't worry about that. Every single person in the music club can play every single instrument. So don't try and like, oh, well, how could I even solve this? I just looked at the answers so far and I love it.
Not anymore though, but we were there at one point.
Yeah, we were completely, every single answer was the same. And they not all zero, right? Like every option had some people in it and they were all identical. Okay, this is interesting. This is interesting.
Very. You know, Tyler, what I was thinking just like a few seconds ago? I'm like, I remember when I first met you, you were about to turn 30.
Sure. Yeah, I guess that's true.
You were still in your 20s when I first met you. And I'm like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Ariana, no. So the bands are separate, right? So if you're in the first band, you can't be in the second band. Do we have a calculation website for like pick and choose? I don't have like an obvious one set up. I'm pretty sure Google can do it for you if you just plug it into Google. You can definitely for this one use Wolfram Alpha. I'm pretty sure most like scientific calculators have a factorial button. I think most smartphones will probably have one on their calculator. You know, you might have to turn your phone to the side to get the fancy calculator. But let me see if I have a factorial button. All right, okay, turn it to the side.
I do not.
No, I guess I don't either. Oh, yours does, Curdy. Okay. Well, maybe.
I think maybe.
Oh, I do have a factorial button.
Where? Oh, I don't have one. I feel left out.
No.
Oh no. Wait. Oh, never mind. I do. I lied. I do.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so I think a lot of calculators do actually have the factorial button. So you could just use a typical calculator if you want. Probably if you're on Windows or a Mac OS or Linux, like any of your built-in calculators for your operating system will probably also have a factorial button. And so you won't be able to directly compute P and C from that, but if you know the formulas, you can plug it into your calculator. Wolfram Alpha can do it. So if you go to Wolfram Alpha and you do something like 10, I think instead of, some people say 10 pick 4 or 20 pick 8 or whatever. What I think you need to do in Wolfram Alpha is 10 permutation 8 or 10 permutation 4 or 20 permutation 8. And I think it'll give you the right answer. Okay, so we can check that after, but I'm pretty sure that's true. Actually, you know what, I can just check it now. I don't have to share my screen to check it.
I was gonna say, even if you just type 10p4 onto Google, the first option is usually like some website that's evaluating it for you.
Oh yeah, okay, so by the way, if you go into Wolfram Alpha and just put in 10p4, it will give you the right answer. Right, like literally 10 space p space 4. I wonder if you even need the spaces. I might be able to do it without spaces. Yeah, Wolfram Alpha, if you just put in 10p4, it was fine. Let's see if it can do 10c4. Yeah, it can do 10c4 as well. So I'd say use Wolfram Alpha. That's probably a good way of doing it. I don't really use other things like Symbolab or anything, so I can't comment whether they can do it. But yeah, give that a shot. It should be okay. How do I spell what? Wolfram alpha? Yeah, give me a second here. Yeah, thank you, Curdy. Yeah, you got it.
Oh, I was about that.
Symbol lab work, great. NCR, what do you mean? What is NCR? You'll have to. Yeah, nice. If you, just type it and it works, that's great.
I mean, a lot of the times we're usually going to put the final answer in terms of P and C. So evaluating it for some cases might not be necessary, like this case right here.
Yeah, exactly. You would just leave it exact, right? Oh, I see what you're saying. Ellie, yes. Yeah. This is the P, but you're right. When you use C, that is what we mean. NCR, sure. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to close it in 30 seconds here too, everyone. So try and get your answers in. And maybe actually let me again copy the question in because there's a lot here. And let's go away. Stupid Zoom. Okay, and 5 seconds. Last chance to get your answers in.
It's Brandon, supposed to. Permutation combinations are two different things.
Yeah, they are different, right? One in one order matters and the other one doesn't. So we haven't talked about combinations yet. That's next week, Brandon. Don't worry about that. But yeah, they are different things, exactly as Aziz says. Okay, so the class was leaning towards D, but with C and A close behind, not too many people thought the answer was B. That might have just been random guessing. D is not correct. Okay, so you have, what's the best way to explain this one? This one's a little bit tricky. Here's how I would do this problem, okay? I would say, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna call guitarist 1, guitarist 2, for which, or maybe let's say guitarist J, guitarist R for the jazz and the rock band, right? We have 10, but we only need 8. Exactly, Jeremiah, exactly. Okay, so in the jazz band, we have a jazz guitarist, we have a what? Drummer jazz, a singer jazz, and a bass guitarist jazz, right? And in the rock band, we have the same thing, but it's different. We're gonna have guitarist rock, drummer rock, singer rock, and bass rock, right? So could we have, A would have been right if the bands are not categorized. No, still not, but this is an interesting question. It's interesting to kind of like talk about that, and we will aim afterwards to try and figure out like actually why none of the other answers are correct, even with slight modifications, right? So after you arrange the jazz band, you can't use the jam band as exactly, Devin. Yeah, you can't. Yeah. And yeah, Aziz answered that. Okay. So we've got 8 slots. Does everyone agree? There are these 8 positions that we need to use, and we've got 10 people to fill these 8 positions. So we need to fill 8 positions. And the order, if we think about it, the order matters, right? Because if I assign, let's say my people are named, right? They have boring names, 1, 2, 3, ... all through 10, right? So I named my students or the people of the music club 1 through 10. If I do 1, 2, 3, 4, that is different than 2, 1, 3, 4, right? Like I get a different band ensemble if I switch who's playing guitar and who's playing drums. Does everyone agree? Does that make sense? All right, this is a different band. So I have 8 slots that I need to fill. I have 10 people that need to fill it. Order matters. The answer is 10 pick 8. All right, so that's C. Well, yellow does not show up well on white. So that's the answer. It's C. Okay. Is everyone all right? Does that make sense? Okay. Now, okay, so 10 pick 4 squared. This is an interesting. Okay, so 20 pick 8 is not going to end up being correct, just because that would be, you have 20 people and you're trying to pick 8 positions, but we only have 10 people, so that's not going to be the right answer. Let's look at A. A says A would be correct if you could repeat band members. Okay, so if the people who served in band A, okay, so sorry, yeah, if that's what you meant, if the bands are not categorized. Okay, yeah, I wouldn't say it as not being categorized, but sure, if people are allowed to be in both bands, 10 pick 4 would be correct, or 10 pick 4 squared, right?
What did you do?
Well, okay, let's think. So the number of ways that you could do the first band is 10 pick 4 for sure, right?
Correct.
And then the number of ways you could do the second band, and assuming you're still allowed to use the same people from the first band, there's still 10 people and there's 4 more positions to pick, right?
But wouldn't there be potential repetition in that case?
Yeah, so what I'm saying here is that like 1, 2, 3, 4, so this is the first band, sure, right? And then even if I choose this is a valid configuration.
Okay, right? I see what you're saying. Fair.
Oh, but what you're saying is that I can't count this twice.
That's kind of the logic, but like if you're kind of categorizing them as 2 separate bands, maybe you're. It's yeah. I'm the guitarist for both bands. Like I do both rock and jazz, and I can do both at the same time. It's just that it becomes kind of tricky with the wording. You have to kind of specify the wording a little bit further.
Yeah, let me think about this, because there might actually be another fringe case where we might have counted this one twice. So let me think. So we've got our band, and okay, let's do a simpler thing. Let's suppose that there's 4 people and there's 2 bands, right? Okay, and I'm going to name my people A, B, C, and D. No, let's name them 1, 2, 3, and 4. Be consistent. Okay, so I could have like 1, 2, 1, 3, 2. I mean, it's going to be 4 pick 2, right? So it's going to be 4 pick 2 is 6.
Well,
4 pick 2, so it's 4 times 3 is 12. Yeah, you're right. It is 12. Oh, I don't want to write it all out. Anyway, so there's 12 options here. 1, 4, 2, 1, 2, 3, 2, 4, 3, 1, 3, 2, 3, 4, and then 4, 1, 4, 2, 4, 3, right? Now you can do exactly the same thing for the second band, right? So we get this again for when we do the second band. Oh, why are you down here? Okay, so now the question is, certainly I can do something like 1, 3, 1, 2. That's not an issue. But the question is, did I count this separately than this? Like, did I count 1, 2, 1, 2 twice? And I don't think so. There's only one way that 1, 2, 1, 2 can occur.
Okay, so then you can square it in that case.
Yeah, so in that case, the answer is still 10 pick 4 squared. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so I got a direct message saying, could it not be 10 times 9 times 8 times 7 times 6 times 5, or plus 6 times 5 times 4 times 3? In that case, no, because you wouldn't want to add them, right? But what you could do, okay, here's another solution. So person who direct messaged me, you're very, very close to having another solution. Another proposed solution is to pick the first band with 10 pick 4, right? So you've got 10 people and you pick 4 of them. Another solution to then is say, well, how many people are left over? And do that. Does everyone agree that's also a solution? Right? And let's check it. Let's see if it works out. So we've got 10 factorial divided by 4 factorial. Hopefully this works out. Divided by 6 factorial times 4 factorial. And so if you were to actually write this out, what is this? This is 10 times 9 times 8 times 7 times, or sorry, 2 factorial. Thank you. Yeah, I got it. And 6 factorial. Thank you. Yeah. This is me forgetting how that works, but yeah, times 7 times 6 times 5 times 4 times 3. That is 10 factorial over 2 factorial, right? Which is 10 pick 8.
Yeah,
right?
That works.
So these are the same answer. So person who direct messages me, you didn't want to add them, you wanted to multiply them. And you can see if you multiply them, you do actually get the same answer. So this is 100% a valid thing that you could have done. You could have said, let's pick the first band first, and then or the jazz band first, and then the rock band second, and you would have gotten the same answer. Okay, so how do I know it's 10 factorial over 6 factorial? Yeah, so it's NPK is n factorial all over n minus k factorial. Right? So if we have 10 pick 4, so it's going to be 10 factorial all over 10 minus 4 factorial. So that's 10 factorial over 6 factorial. Yeah. Okay, any other questions about this one? Because we're about to do one very similar. So I want to make sure everyone's okay with this.
I like the second solution better. I like the 10p4 times 6p4 better. Personally.
Yeah, and so this is okay. This is a perfectly great way of doing it. And yeah, there's absolutely nothing wrong with this. It's not even like a matter of preference. Something nice here to have in mind, though, is that there are often multiple ways of approaching these sorts of questions. And that definitely doesn't mean that they're wrong, but it can help to have multiple perspectives, right? So that is definitely like a nice thing to keep in mind. Okay, so almost the same question, but slightly different. And before we even start voting, can somebody tell me what the difference between this question and the previous one was? Repetition of what? Okay, no. So in this question, you are still not allowed to repeat people. So if you are in one band, you can't be in the other one. Okay, Curdy, yeah, exactly. The bands are not specified. All right, because there's nothing in this question that says that if you're in one band, you can't be in the other one. That's fair. Where I'm going to tell you right now, as part of the question, if you're in one band, you can't be in the other band. Okay, so from that point of view, it's the same question. You're not allowed to be in multiple bands. But as Curdy points out, the difference here is that in the previous question, we said there's a jazz band and a rock band. Here, we're just saying we're making 2 bands, right? So we haven't distinguished between which band is rock and which band is jazz. So what does that make the correct answer?
Oh, okay. Every time we do this unit, I also have to think a lot about these questions before solving them, because there's always like a small twist to each one of them.
Yeah, it happens to me every time too, because I'm not a combinatorist, so I have to like remember how all these things work. And it's the same thing. Like Jordy and Rita the other day were saying, like, yeah, this question actually, these 2 questions really messed them up, and they had to think about them for a while. So it's okay if you have to think about it, right?
I think what we did last time is a good tactic as well, just for like the students here listening. Like a lot of times in these type of questions, especially when we're dealing with really big numbers, to do a small sample size like we did last time with like only 4 people, and we're picking 2 people per band, just to see like how a smaller example would work and list them all out. Like that's usually a very valid tactic for a lot of these type of questions.
Mm-hmm. So Connie, yeah, the question is, I've got 10 people and I need to make 2 bands, right? So I need to pick 8 people. I need to fill the roles. The difference here is that, so now instead of 8 roles, there are only 4 roles. No, not quite. I mean, maybe you mean the same thing as I do, but it's not quite. So in the sense now is that you can't, like Brandon, your statement is kind of correct, but not 100%. And we need to be careful about the wording. How do I want to, let me see if I can think of an analogy. Yeah, okay, let's say this. Let's say that you all asked me to choose my favorite 2 students in the class, right? And there are currently, let's say, it's close. There are currently 77 students in this class, okay? So if I had to rank my top 2 favorite students, my first favorite student and my second favorite student, how many ways would there be of doing that? There are 77 students in the Zoom lecture right now, 77 students. How many ways could I choose my top favorite student and my second favorite student? And yeah, I assume you meant 76 and you just mistyped there. But yeah, 77 times 76. Everyone agrees, right? Because there's 77 options for the first person. And then once I've chosen the first person, I can't repeat them. So 76 options. Okay. Now, so that was like the previous question where I distinguished my first favorite student and my second favorite student. Now, this question is me saying, I'm going to pick my top 2 students, my 2 favorite students, but I am not going to distinguish who of them is my favorite and who of them is my second favorite. Does that make sense? I'm just saying, I'm going to choose 2 students in the class. They're going to be my top students. Those are my favorite students, but they don't have a rank. There's no way of distinguishing which student is the favorite student and which student is the second favorite student. Sure, yeah. How many 2-person combos can you make with 77 people? Now, we haven't learned combinations yet, right? Combinations are next week, but nonetheless, we can still solve this problem now if we think about the problem. And this will like allow us to segue nicely into combinations. But Brandon, you can see like, yeah, that is the rough idea of exactly what it is you want to do. Yeah, exactly. Which would be 77 for the original question of 77 times 76. You mean? Yeah, absolutely. And notice that that is the same thing as 77 pick 2, right? So if you do 77 P2, that and you plug in the formula, that is 77 factorial over 75 factorial, exactly. Maybe yes, maybe no. That was supposed to be a private message.
I also really like looking at the polls for counting problems because usually it's very uniform.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm going to give you 20 more seconds. See if you can get it in. Okay, all right, so 2/3 of people answered. Sweet, awesome. We're leaning towards C. C is not the correct answer. So if C was not the correct answer, right, yeah, it's got to be B. Okay, so the answer is 10 pick 8 divided by 2 factorial or just divided by 2. And the reason for this is what we want to say is the following. So let's say, again, we're in the same situation as before. We have, singer, guitarist, drummer, and bass guitarist, singer, guitarist, drummer, and bass guitarist. Now, last time they had like S sub J, G sub J, D sub J, B sub J to distinguish between the jazz and the rock bands. Notice in this time, if I were to choose this configuration of students, this is the same as this. Does everyone agree? These are the same? Right? Because you can't distinguish the 2 bands. right? The bands are just bands. It's not that one band's going to play jazz, one band's going to play rock. I'm just trying to figure out how many ways can I make two bands? And these are the same way, right? So I'm saying students 1, 2, 3, and 4, you're in a band. Student 5, 6, 7, 8, you're in a band. That's the same thing as if I had said students 5, 6, 7, 8, you're in a band, and students 1, 2, 3, 4, sorry, this should be a 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, you're in a band, right? So these are the same. Does everyone agree? Hopefully, yes. Now, these would have been different if I distinguished rock and jazz, right? If the rock band was on the left and the jazz band was on the right, these would have been different configurations, different arrangements of players. But now that I've just said I'm trying to make two bands, now they're the same. So what I'm trying to do is trying to figure out how many have I overcounted by. If I use 10 pick 8, which is what I used when I was distinguishing between rock and jazz, how many times did I overcount now each configuration if rock and jazz bands are considered the same, right? So how many times did each configuration get counted extra in the previous question? Does that make sense? Or let me put it this way. Is there any other way of making these two bands, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8? Is there another way that I could have arranged, like counted, and these are the two bands that I got? Well, if I rearrange within it though, so if I write like 2, 1, 3, 4, that's different, right? Because in the 1, 2, 3, 4 configuration, I'm saying number 1 is the singer, student 2 is the guitarist. In 2, 1, 3, 4, 2 is now the singer and 1 is the guitarist, right? And remember, we are saying that it's a different band if you play a different instrument. So this isn't the same. Does that kind of make sense? So there's only two ways. So, or if we use 10 pick 8, we overcounted everything twice. Does that make sense? 10 pick 8 overcounted every number or every configuration twice. Okay, but does anyone else, who's still confused? Because I suspect there are still some people confused. Does it make sense when I say every 10 pick 8 overcounted every configuration 2 times? I mean that when I write down 1, 2, 3, 4, that's my first band, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 pick 8 thinks that this is a different combination, right? But I'm saying for this question, these are actually the same. So I accidentally counted this one twice, and I only should have counted it once. That makes sense? Does everyone else see that too? Right? 10 pick 8 thinks these are separate configurations, but for this question, they are the same configuration. So we've overcounted them by twice. So if we've overcounted every pair twice, that's the correct answer, right? You just divide by 2. You counted everything 2 times, divide it by 2, and now you've only counted everything once. Okay, so are there any outstanding questions about that? How do you overcount it? Yeah, here, we overpick because we assume the 2 bands are identical. Exactly, Rowan. Yeah, we assume the 2 bands are identical, which means we've overcounted them because the 10 pick 8 assumes they're different. So yeah, what I'm trying to say here, maybe let me, how can I?
You can look at it as well in a way where, if you look at, if you do mind scrolling up a little bit, Tyler, just to show the combinations you had above. In that, let's look at that first line where you put 1, 2, 3, 4 under the first band, 5, 6, 7, 8 under the second band. Because the 2 bands are identical, in this case, your singers are numbers 1 and 5. If you look at the second case now, when the 5, 6, 7, 8, then the 1, 2, 3, 4, your singers are still 1 and 5. It doesn't matter which way you arranged. And then do the same thing with the guitarists, the drummers, and the bass guitarists. You're going to notice that because the 2 bands are identical, you're going to have the same 2 people doing the same job here.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at the guitarist column, initially it's 2 and 6, and then the second case is 6 and 2, but it doesn't matter. You're still gonna have the same 2 people playing the guitar. Because the bands are identical, it doesn't matter which one you arrange with. And that's why in this case, you're double counting in those 2 cases. You can realize every single one of the members here is gonna be playing the same instrument in case 1 and case 2.
Mm-hmm. And actually, yeah. So Aziz, this is good. I like this mentality. So let's spell out the difference between these 2 cases a little bit more clearly as well, right? So in the previous question, we had the rock singer and the jazz singer. And let's say that this is 1 and 5, right? This was one possible option. This was a different option. Do you agree? Agam, does this make sense? Like that in the previous question where we distinguished between the rock and the jazz, that if we just looked at the singers, these are different configurations of singers, because in the first bubble, student 1 is the rock singer. In the second bubble, student 5 is the rock singer. So these are different configurations, right? These are different. Right? Is that okay? So, okay. Now in this, so this was the previous. So in this question, we have S and S, right? I don't have any way of distinguishing who the singer is. So these are the same, right? It's just 1 and 5 are the singers. But we don't distinguish between which of them is the rock singer, which one of them is the jazz singer. They're both just the singers. Okay, I'm going to take that as a good O, Namir, right? Like, is he seeing it? Right? Right, the singers are not specified. Right, exactly. We didn't say which, like, you know, in the previous question, there was a rock singer and there was a jazz singer, and they were different. And if we switched their roles, which student did which, that was a different combination. Here, they're just singers, and we don't distinguish between them, which means that these 2 things are now the same, right? Couldn't you just say how many ways is there to choose 10 people? Yes, but we don't know what choose means yet, Owen. So this is actually how you justify what the formula for choose is. So we're kind of segueing into that for next week, but you're absolutely correct. That is roughly the right idea, right?
Correct.
And then
we're dividing by 2 just because everything's getting repeated exactly twice. So we're dividing by 2 to account for that, removing that repetition. Yeah. So the 10 picked 8 counted these as different. And so what we're going to do is we're going to say, well, okay, you counted everything twice, right? Because the 10 pick 8 answer said, this is option number 1, this is option number 2. And we're like, no, 10 pick 8. You were supposed to count those as the same thing. And you did that with every single possible combination. So we're just going to take, because you counted everything twice, we're going to divide your number by 2, and that will give us the correct answer, right? Like if I give you a bag of 10 jelly beans, and I said, how many jelly beans are in it? And for whatever reason, you counted every jelly bean twice, and you gave me 20. I'd be like, no, the answer is not 20. I know you counted everything twice. So I'm going to divide by 2, and we're going to get 10 jelly beans. So 10 pick 8 counted every combination twice. And so we divide by 2 in order to get the right number. The fact that there are 2 options, oh, my screen just went into screensaver. Oh, I do not want to create breakout rooms. The fact that there are 2 options shouldn't make that make them different. No, because you can't tell them apart, right? This is important. You can't distinguish between these 2 bands. We didn't give them names. You're right, Quentin. If we called them band 1 and band 2, then they would have different names, right? And we would be able to distinguish them. But we didn't give them names. We just said they're both bands. And so we can't distinguish them. Like you saying band 1 and band 2 is the same as me saying rock band and jazz band, right? Just instead of the numbers 1 and 2, we said rock and jazz. In this case, we can't distinguish them, right? They are the same. So in this case, it's not like the previous question. It is actually different. Right, okay, let me, it is for sure, because in P order matters, our second question, we don't really care about the orders. No, we still care about the order, right? Because if I say singer, guitarist,
drummer and bass drummer, 1, 2, 3, 4 is different than 2, 1, 3, 4, right? So the order here still matters, right, Jeremiah? Like if I put them in a different order, I get a different band because they're playing different roles. Curdy, right? Yeah, that wouldn't be possible. Here, let me put it another way. Let's do a word problem, okay? So let's say I said, how many ways can you arrange this word? T-A-K-E, take, right? How many options are for, or how many two-letter words can you make from this? Okay, so how many options? So how many two-letter words? How many options for the first one? 4, great. How many options for the second one? 3, exactly. Okay, so there's 12. I can make 12 two-letter words. Okay, now what if I said, oh, hey, by the way, K and A are the same letter? Okay, so I turned the K. We know that this is secretly a K. But what I did is I actually kind of like, I put white out over it, I painted over it, and I redrew it as an A. And I said, now how many two-letter words can you make? Right, there's 6 now, Jeremiah, exactly. Because what we're going to do is we're going to take our old one, 12, and we're going to say, how many times did you overcount each of these options? Well, you overcounted them each twice, right? Because TA, which was an option previously, and TK, these were different. And then I said, oh, look, now K and A are the same. I've overcounted them. You literally can't tell the two A's apart, right? They don't have, I didn't call them A1 and I didn't call them A2. They don't have names. They're both just the letter A. And so I can't tell them apart. So previously, TA and TK were different. And now TA and TA, I can't tell them apart. I don't know which A this was. Does that make sense? And does that help, Quentin? Like, see that I actually can't distinguish the A's?
I think potentially if you list them out, because I know there's 12 of them, so it's annoying to write, but if you list out all the two-letter combinations for take and then TAAE,
yeah,
then they would say that they see the difference. Like I see what you're saying, but maybe.
Well, here actually, yeah, here, let's do it a different way. Let's say TAA hat E. Okay, so let's write all of them out. And I see, Aziz, can you try and hit the,
yeah,
while I write these out? Let me, write them like this. So T E, TA hat, TE, well, okay. A, T, A hat, T. No, we're going to do this different. I need to do it methodically, otherwise I'm going to make a mistake. And then, of course, my pen. There it is. So it starts with T, second letter, vary, right? T-A-T-E. Now start with an A and let the second letter vary. A hat, A-E, A hat, T, A hat, A hat, E, then E, T, E, A. A hat. Okay, these are all 12. Everyone agrees? These are all the 12-letter words I can make from T, A hat, E. Does everyone agree? Okay, now what I'm going to do, I know you can't do this, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this list. Okay, I'm going to put it down here. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to erase the hat. So that I can no longer tell the difference between A and A hat. Okay, and what we notice, these are now the same. These are the same. These are the same. These are the same. And unfortunately now I kind of have to go across, so I'm just going to give them different colors. Oh no, I don't have to. There we go. And then different, I guess I can use yellow for that one still. Wait, why did I screw up? Where's the T? Oh yeah, no, these are just different. What did I do here?
I'm trying to look with you. Oh, actually, wait, what?
You know what the issue is? Is because A. No, is that right? What did I do here?
I'm trying to see with you because I know where this is. I can see what you're saying here. T A T E T E T T A T. It's the AA that's causing the problem here. I'm just trying to see why. Yeah, letters.
What did I do? I made a mistake somewhere.
I don't think you did. I think what's happening is that the AA is giving a seventh option. But I'm not sure why is that's not being calculated in a,
yeah.
Because you have 4 times 3 divided by 2, so 6.
Right, so, okay, so the answer would be, right, like 4 choose 2. So that's 4 over 2 factorial, 2 factorial. And so that should be right. So 4 factorial divided by 2 factorial is 12, divided by 2 is 6. So there should be 4.
We have 7 in this case.
Yeah, we do have 7. Why do we have 7? I've screwed something up here. But yeah, so yeah, I've screwed something up and I'm going to have to go back and fix it. But yeah, so Quentin, you're saying you see what's going on, right? Like once I've removed the hat, I can't tell the difference between them, right? And that's going to throw everything off. What have I done wrong though? This is bugging me. What have I done wrong? What did I screw up? Okay, so the number of configurations of TAAE, so we have a repetition here. So it's going to be 4 factorial
over 2 factorial, which is the repetition.
Right.
And that should be it technically.
Right, so, but that's still 12.
That is still 12. Are we missing some in this case?
But this should also be 4 pick 2, right? So what have we done? Which is 4 factorial over 2 factorial. What did we do wrong here?
I mean, what?
Wait, we might have jumped the gun.
I agree. Well, the thing is, these are more.
No, okay, this 4 factorial over 2 factorial is the number of ways of arranging this without just choosing 2 of them, right? That's the number of 4-letter words you can make with a repetition.
Oh, that's true. That's correct.
Right? So I actually only want to pick 2 of them. And okay, yeah, this problem is a little bit harder now.
Oh, no, but pick should account.
No, okay. Here's the issue. So okay, so here's what I did wrong.
Oh, I know what's happening here.
Yeah.
You have. I remember now. You have to do cases for this one. You can't do it without cases.
Yeah.
Because you have to do a case when the letters are repeating, so the AA case, and then everything else when the letters are not repeating.
Yeah. So you're right. This is not a good example because this is the argument you make actually when you're motivating a combination, which is when the order doesn't matter, not when there are identical elements, right? Yeah, so when I want to say,
this one is with cases. Yeah, you have to make 2 cases in this case.
Yeah. So when I want to say order doesn't matter, what I want to do is say these two are the same, right? And then where are the other ones? So A hat E and E A hat are the same, right? These are the same. And then
you have to go across.
Yeah. These are the same. Right. And then these are the same. And then these are the same. And that should give us 6.
That does give us 6.
Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this gives us 6. Right. So what we were doing in that case is just saying the order of them does not matter. Right? That was the derivation of what we were just doing.
Correct.
Right. Okay. So in this case, right. And this is still applicable. It's just sorry, everyone. I gave you the wrong example to do. This is an example that we should have used for something else. But yeah, the idea here is still very similar. It's basically that we had band rock, band jazz, right? And then what I'm saying is, so here there were 2 options. Now we can't tell them apart, right? So BR, BJ, you could think about it as BJ, BR, as these being sort of like 2 different things. And then once we say that the order doesn't matter, I've overcounted by twice because I don't care about these anymore. I get BB and BB, right? I'm sorry, I messed that up. That was my mistake. Hopefully I didn't throw any of you off, but yeah, it's roughly that idea and you have to think about it a little bit. But once we get to combinations, hopefully it'll clear up a little bit more. Okay, either way though, this answer is still correct. Where we do the 10 pick 8 divided by 2, because we counted every band twice. Okay, is everyone okay-ish? Hopefully, I apologize. I hope that I didn't make things more confusing there when I did that. But yeah, right, before we had rock and jazz, and now they're the same. So we have to divide our answer by 2 because we counted every single configuration twice. Are there any questions about that? Otherwise, what I'm going to do is I'm going to disappear for a couple of minutes, and then I'll come back and we'll do office hours.
I'll be hanging around meanwhile, so if there's any questions, I'll answer them.
Okay. Wait already? What do you?
I think it's like the time went by really quick.
Oh yeah. In fact, we're deep into office hours at this point, right? Yeah. Give me I just need like 2 minutes or so, and then I'll be right back. Okay. So Aziz hopefully can fill it in, and yeah, for all the rest of you, if you got to run, obviously take off, and good luck on the test.
Exactly. Yeah, I'll be hanging around for any questions.
Okay. Yeah, I'll be right back.
Can we do test material in office hour when you're back? I mean, we'll find out when Tyler comes back. But I don't think he'll mind. How hard is the test? I don't think it's bad, but I might be a little biased. I don't think the test is that bad. Can we do office hours until 12 p.m.? I mean, if Tyler wants to stay up till tomorrow, 12 p.m., then sure. But I don't think that's going to be very realistic. Is it harder than the assignments? I don't necessarily think so. Is it going to be like last assignment, so many people were confused? I don't think so. I think the assignments usually test the limits of your understanding a little bit more than tests do, at least. That's my opinion. I mean, yeah, depending on what chapter you like. Some people love the linear algebra chapter, so for them this is like their favorite chapter, so they love the material and the thing the test is released. Some people don't like it also, just depending on what you prefer. Tyler is actually really chill. He is really chill, actually. Even when you get like, I know it's kind of tough because we're on Zoom now, but even back in the day when he used to teach in person and you get to like go talk to him face to face, he's a really nice guy. Assignment 4 was confusing. Yeah, I think question 1 of assignment 4 was in a way a little bit confusing just because the wording was tough. But once you understood what was happening, I thought it was a really easy question. I think there's a question here. Is the test more numerical or abstract? I honestly think at this point in the course, you guys should realize that most of these courses, in terms of assignments and tests, are a little bit more abstract. So hopefully you notice the theme here. The only reason it's not very numerical, I'd say, is because with it being online, like the test, if it's just all numerical, you can copy paste the question directly on a calculator and you can get a direct answer. So it has to be a little bit more abstract. Okay, I got a private question asking me, do you mind asking how long you are TA for? I've been TAing this course for 5 years, which is a long time. This is my 8th time teaching this course. So, yeah, no, I'm kind of like a seasoned vet in this course at this point. I've taught, I think I've taught more than everyone except Tyler. Everyone, including the profs, except Tyler.
Yeah. I mean, there's a sense in which, did you I guess you didn't TA in the summer. There are, I think, actually some TAs who in theory could have done it more than me because they would do it in the summer as well, and I don't teach in the summer.
It depends. I've taught this course in total now. This is my 8th time teaching this course. So I don't know how many times you've taught it.
Yeah, no, I don't. I think I'm at like 5 or 6.
Oh, never mind that. I've taught it more than time. I taught it for the first few summers. Like I haven't taught it in the last 2 summers, but I was teaching it every summer.
Yeah, exactly. That's the difference, right? Is the summers.
Yeah.
Where's the front page? Let me see. I can make that out. And then for everyone else, it looks like a bunch of people have asked about like office hours and stuff.
The majority of the questions were if this office hour can be test prep more than anything else.
Oh yeah, for sure. Right. Like definitely. That's what I assumed we were going to do. So term test 2 information.
There was also a few questions where they're saying if they could even extend these office hours till midnight, but
no, I mean they said 12 p.m. Really, that would be.
Oh, that's true.
That'd be noon tomorrow. Okay, so Victoria, go to that. And then if you go to rules during the test, I guess this is maybe a weird place for it, but the 3rd bullet point in rules during the test is, you can see there's a little download link there, and that should pull up the term test 2 page.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, perfect. Very good, very good. Yeah, okay, so does anyone have like a particular question? Like what, how to do 3-4, sure. 3-4. Oops. Oh yeah, this one. Yeah, okay. So 3-4. This is a nice one too, because it's kind of, you can imagine if you want something that a student kind of has to row reduce by hand, that this is exactly the sort of thing we would give, right? Abstract eigenvalue, eigenvector, sure. I mean, Kurt, if you can find an example of something you're talking about, that would probably be a little bit more helpful then, because I can just dip right into it. And then I know exactly what you're talking about. But 3-4, so this is from the PDF. Here we have this linear system. And if it's okay, I'm just going to write down the linear system immediately as an augmented matrix. Okay, so we're going to have 1, 1, -1, 10, -1, 1, looks like -11, 2, 2, 4. And then here's the important part, a plus 8 and 50. Right? And it asks you, find the values of A such that the system has no solutions, values of A such that it has a unique solution, and the values of A such that this has infinitely many solutions. So we know that the number of solutions that a system has is very closely related to the rank of the matrix, right? So what we probably want to do is we want to start row reducing this system and see if we can figure out what its rank is. So we're going to row reduce, and Symbolab and Wolfram Alpha can probably do this one numeric, or like do this one symbolically, but let's just practice our row reduction by hand. So I'm going to add row 1 to row 2 and -2 row 1 into row 3. And again, everyone double check my row reduction because I'm doing this live and I could make a mistake. So this is going to be 0. I'm straight up adding, so 2, -12, 12, and then 0, 2, -2 is 2, so a plus 10, I think. And then -2 is 20, so 30. Does that look right?
Why did you get a plus 10? Or am I doing it wrong?
So,
right. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So -2 times -1 is +2, and then a plus 8 plus 2.
You're good.
Ruba, why -2? Where? Like this -2?
I'm assuming that's the one they're talking about.
So yeah, I'm trying to use this to cancel this. So I want -2 times 1, and I'm going to add it to 2, and that should give me a 0 there. That's the idea. Does that make sense? Okay. And then to do the next step, like I could normalize this row, but like let's leave it as it is for now. And I'm going to add -row1 into row 2. So the first two rows aren't going to change at all. 0 to -12, 12, 0. Okay, negative that. A plus 22. And then -12 plus 30 is 18. Right, and then maybe also let me divide row 2 by 1 or by 2. So 1/2 row 2 into row 2. 0, 1, -6, 0, 0, a plus 22, 10, 6, 18, like so. Okay.
Cool. Let me just double check this. I think there might be a slight error here.
Okay.
Okay. No, for some reason I always look at this. I know you're good. I think you just miswrote it. It's instead of row 1 and row 2 for the second line, it's supposed to be 2 and 3. Like in the instruction on the other on the left hand side, you put minus row 1.
Oh yeah, row 3.
Yeah. It's 2 and 3. Yeah. Minus row 2.
Oh yeah, 2 and 3. Yeah. Theodora, yes, a single eigenvalue can have more than one eigenvector. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's not the other way around. When we are row reducing with a variable, the variable doesn't change. It can change. It absolutely can. In this case, it didn't. It would have helped if there were A's above this. Then the variable would have been more likely to change, but in this case, no. In fact, there is a similar question in, let me find it. And I think we did it in office hours one day, so you can probably find the video recording of it as well. No problem, no problem. 3-22 has one where the variables will change when you row reduce. So if you want an example of trying that one, that would be a good example to try out. Okay, so now we're in a good position because if you divide row 3 by 2, then it'd be 1/2 A. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Jack, we could do that. Yeah. And that would change the variable, right? So that's kind of a great example. We could totally take that first row or that third row and divide it by half. We could divide it by a plus 22 if we really wanted to do it. Okay, so notice now if a is equal to -22, what happens? Then what? It's not even in REF yet because this isn't necessarily 1. So I got a direct message saying this is in REF, not REF. So I would say it's technically not in either right now. Right. And exactly. So if a is -22, then a plus 22 is 0. We can't have 0 plus 0 plus 0 equals 18. And exactly. So this would be no solutions. Okay. Okay, so that takes care of one of the questions, right? So one of the questions was what value of a would give you no solutions. Is there any value of a that gives me infinitely many solutions? Like what would I need to happen for there to be infinitely many solutions? Okay, so maybe I made a mistake row reducing, but like in that case, I would say, like, let's trust what we've done here or double check. I mean, at some point, double check like my row reduction, but it's possible there's an error in the things. Okay, so Brandon, -21 would make this 118. That's a full rank system, right? Curdy, 1/22 would give me 1/22 plus 22, which is some weird number, but it's definitely like, what do I need? Like, let's not worry about a for a second. What do I need to have infinitely many solutions? Okay, yeah, a parameter. Okay, oh, and yeah, this is a good thing. So I need to do, that's part of it. So I need the 18 to be a 0, but then I'd also need the a plus 22 to be a 0, right? Basically, I need this whole row to be zeros, right? And dot, yeah, exactly. I need no leading 1, so I need that row to be zeros, right? And this is kind of what, Brandon, what you were alluding to with the parameter. Remember, the parameter means no leading 1, as kind of Dowd mentioned. And so that means that this entire row has to be zeros, right? And is there any value of a that makes this entire row 0? Right, because you can't make the 18 0, right? You just don't have control over that. There's no a there. So there's no value of a that gives you infinitely many solutions. Okay. And now any other value will give you a unique solution, right? Because then you'll have full rank. If a is negative 14, you still get a unique solution, right? Because you get 18 and 18 on one side, 18 on another side. So that would just mean that your third variable is equal to 1, but it's still a unique solution. Sure. So for infinitely many solutions, right? For infinitely many solutions, everyone, don't forget our rank discussion, right? So for infinitely many solutions, we must have that the rank is less than, strictly less than, the number of variables. Everyone remember that? Well, Connie, try it, see what happens. Wouldn't have to be 1 to be a unique solution. Yeah, okay, so if the rank, okay, does everyone, like, let's not guess, let's just go by what we know. If the rank is less than the number of variables, we have infinitely many solutions. Does everyone agree? Okay, based off of here, we already have 2 leading ones, right? And we have 3 variables. So the only way that we will have infinitely many solutions is if we have rank 2, right? i.e., I need this entire row to disappear, right? Because if this is just 0, we already said this is no solutions. So what I need is this to be true. I need 0, 0, 0, 0, so that I only have rank 2, right? Because that's the only way that my rank right now could be less than 3. Does everyone agree? And that's not possible because we have an 18 here, right? No value of 22 can make the 18 0. Right? Does everyone agree? Okay. And to have, you have a unique solution, as Aziz said earlier, so you have a unique solution if your rank is your number of variables. Okay, so what this means is if this is any number, literally any number other than 0, then you can divide it, you can turn it into a leading 1, right? Does everyone agree? Like, it doesn't matter what number this is, as long as it's not 0, then you could turn it into a leading 1, and you'll then have full rank. Right, and so that's it.
Yeah, try picking any a value, like literally any a value except obviously minus 22, and solve a few of them, and you'll realize that it will always be a leading 1 there, and there's always going to be a rank 3, so it's always going to give you a strictly unique solution.
In fact, we could just we could do another row operation, which is to do 1 over a plus 22, row 3, into row 3. And we can do that because, again, the denominator is not 0, right? And that would give us 1, 1, negative 1, 0, 1, negative 6, 0, 0, 1, 10, 6, and 18 over a plus 22, right? Sorry, it's getting a little bit messy there. But the only reason I can do that is because a is not negative 22. Boom, now I have full rank. Right? Okay, is everyone good? if that 18 was a 0, then A equals -2 for it to be infinitely many. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Exactly.
But then in that case, you will not have a case where, like, assuming the 18 there was, instead of 18, it was a 0, you will not have a case of no solutions. You'll have a case of infinitely many solutions and a unique one, but not in a case of no solutions.
Exactly, exactly.
So in this case, they're alternating, just depending on the number at the end.
And so, yeah, so Jocelyn, I saw your request. Curdy asked earlier for an abstract eigenvalue, eigenvector question. So Curdy, did you find one?
We did one in the tutorials the other day. It wasn't necessarily abstract, but it was the other way around, where they were given the eigenvalue, eigenvector question, and then they were asked to do some multiplication based on that. It was basically like, I'm pretty sure, I think it was one of the test questions from a few years ago.
Well, so Curdy, my only concern is I don't know what you mean, and if I knew what you meant, I could probably make something up, but I'm just not certain. And Theodora, I think you asked for one where there were multiple, like a single eigenvalue has multiple solutions. If we have time today, I can do one, but there is a recording last week of me doing one. Does anyone remember what day that was? Just out of curiosity, just so I can send Theodora to that recording. Was it Tuesday or Thursday last week where you all asked me to do, must have been Thursday, right? Where I did an example of a 3x3 matrix, and one of the eigenvalues had 2 eigenvectors. Does anyone remember what recording that was? I can try and find it. And Jeremiah, what are you asking? So what is no, it says there's no value of A which gives infinitely many solutions. Does that clarify that? Does that clear that up? Last Thursday, I think it was last Thursday too. We can probably pull up, I'm just gonna pull up the recording here and see if I can fast forward and find it. Oh man, so hearing myself talk. Where the hell is it? Oh yeah, I think I found it. Oh, beautiful. Okay. So Theodora, I will send you the exact location of where we're doing it. And maybe that will help. So just in case I don't have time for it. Okay, here we go. I want to include the timestamp. Okay, so Theodora, you're right here. And for anyone else too. So last Thursday, for those of you wondering about this whole like, oh, can an eigenvalue have multiple eigenvectors? The answer is yes. We did an example of this last Thursday. And if I recall correctly, what I've just put in the Zoom chat is exactly even like down to the timestamp of where I did that one in office hours. So if you want to do that, you can go check that out, and hopefully it'll help there. Okay. I'll download this because otherwise it'll get buried in the thing. Okay, so Christian, hold on to that. I'm not certain why you sent it to me, but we can take it in a second. We can look at it. Unless this was you giving me it's an eigenvalue question. I assume there's a question associated with this. Jocelyn asked about 3-8. Let me take a look at 3-8 here. Define this matrix. Note that the steps used in reducing the augmented matrix to RAF work regardless of which B is in the augmented column. Therefore, we would solve our linear system for all 4 choices. Okay. So Jocelyn, does that sound like the 3-8 you were asking for? Right. Okay. So this is from 3-8, and it basically says, hey, find the solution to AX. It doesn't use this language, but now that we have access to this, we might as well use it. So it says, without finding an inverse, basically do these 4, like solve all 4 of these systems at once. And the suggestion that it gives is to create a super augmented matrix like this and row reduce it, right? And then it gives you a particular values of A and B. So if we do that, 1, 3, 2, 4, 0, 5, -1, 1, 7, and then super augment 2, 9, 7, 2, 38, 44, 52, -55, -67, 18, -16, and -26. So you can row reduce this. Yeah, it's a big matrix. You can row reduce this and get an answer. Now, is it the particular row reduction steps that are throwing you off? Otherwise, you can just throw this into octave, right? So, like, do you want me to do the row reduction? The numbers are a little bit nasty. So it's basically row reduce this. Turn the left-hand side into the identity matrix. Right? So this isn't, like I said, it can get a little bit messy because you actually do have to like do this row reduction. But the idea is that this vector right here, this is B1. This is B2, this is B3, and this is B4. So what this gives me the ability to do is to solve all 4 of these systems simultaneously. Instead of having to do the complete row reduction 4 times, all I can do is I can do the row reduction once. It's a little bit nasty because the matrix is really, really big. But by doing the row reduction once, I can solve all 4 systems at the same time. That's what this question is saying, Jocelyn. And it's just give it a shot, right? Try it, plug it in, and see if it works out. So does that make sense? Yeah, so I suggest trying it, and yeah, just put it into octave if you want. This isn't a bad, I'm pretty sure I made these numbers work out so that the solutions were good numbers. So if any of you want practice doing a row reduction by hand, this is probably a good one to do as well. Exactly, yeah, Jacob, yeah. And then 322B is, oh man. So actually we did 322B, Jocelyn, again in tutorial. Somebody asked me about it. Let me see if I can find same sort of thing. It's so great having the recordings up because I can just send you to where in the recordings I did them. Let me see if I can find it.
Is 3-22 the one with the like row reduction with the variables in there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if I'm wondering if anyone remembers where we did this. Did we do this Tuesday? Did we do this November 2nd, maybe? Or did we do it on Thursday as well? Where the heck is it?
Brandon's saying you probably did it on Tuesday.
Tuesday? Okay, so the 2nd, right? Where the heck is it?
2nd or yeah, it would probably.
Yeah, last or oh, this week. Okay.
So the 9th?
Yeah. Yes, I think you're right. Thank you, Brandon. Yeah, and I found the exact location.
Also, while you're looking for them, a few students in the chat were asking about the tutorial solutions for weeks 6 and 7. So if someone has them handy by any chance, if you can link them in the chat, that'll be great because I do not have mine anymore.
All right, Jocelyn, here is where I did 322, including B. So yeah, so you should be able to check that out and you'll be able to see what I did there. I should keep a record of all the questions I do and like post them with the video. And then that way people can be like, oh, this is where, this is the video that has them. That's actually, that would be a good idea. I should have thought about that beforehand. Okay. So yeah. Christian, did you ever tell me why you sent me that? I think you did. I can't find it again. Yes. Brandon. If that is an example of eigenvalue. Oh, I see. Here, let me take a look. Yes. Yeah, that is an example. Yeah. And so you might want to share that with Theodora too, if you get a second, like throw it in the main chat if you want. But yes, that is an example of a 3x3 system where a single eigenvalue has two eigenvectors. Yeah, very good. No problem. Okay, why are we asking about the tutorial solutions?
I think they might have missed a few of them were missed the solution.
Okay, it doesn't have anything to do with me though, right?
No, it has nothing to do with you.
Okay. So everyone, there's only a couple more minutes left. Are there any pressing questions? This might be your last chance. I mean, again, I won't make Piazza private until about 9 p.m., like when the test goes live. So you'll still be able to answer some last minute questions there, but.
The one other question I see, but it's more generic. They're asking if the test questions are going to look more like the assignment 4 questions or more like practice questions, regular. I'm not sure what they mean by regular practice, but regular.
Let's say I really hope that you worked hard on assignment 4. Right? I will say that like it is much easier than assignment 4, much easier than assignment 4, right? But assignment 4 will be extremely relevant. But also solutions are up, right? Solutions to assignment 4 are up, and I fully expect you to use them.
That's fair.
Right?
A few of them were asking about also assignment if they're going to get their assignment 4 results in time, but
yeah, no,
solutions are up. The solutions are up, so it shouldn't matter.
Yeah, and that question is just taking a long time to mark, just because a lot of people did a lot of crazy things. So it is taking a while. Yes, yeah, there's only that one question. Yeah, it's easier than assignment 4 for sure. Like the stuff that I asked you to do is much easier.
You can find the solutions under, if you go to like Quarkus and you go to the.
It should be the same place where you downloaded it, Brandon. If you like pulled it, yeah, you found them.
Oh, great.
During the 24-hour window, we won't be able to ask questions about course material. Right. Yeah, I mean, you'll only be able to ask clarifying questions, right? So you'll only be able to ask like, I don't understand what this means. Can you help me out? Yeah. No problem. I mean, in theory, if you ask questions that were in no way related to the test, we would probably answer them. It's just, that's probably not your first priority, right? Like if you ask us a like financial math question, I'd be like, sure, I guess I'll answer. I just
ask about the difference between combinations and permutations.
That's right. Yeah, 100% I would answer those questions. Like, sure, go ahead. I'll ask you. I'll answer those ones. What PDF questions would be helpful for practice? I can't give away that much. I think I've already given away a fairly huge hint saying if assignment 4 would be relevant, but doesn't have a boundary between hard and easy. Sure. I mean, like,
I don't know if I agree with that person. I think it's all like you need to work for it, but if you do, I feel like there's always going to be like a clicking moment in your head at some point, and it changes quickly from quote unquote hard to easy. Yeah, let me say, I think 2 of the 3 questions are very straightforward. Okay, and this isn't like I'm very hesitant to say these sorts of things because almost certainly some of you will struggle on them, and that's okay. That's not a bad thing, and that's not a sign at all that you're dumb or anything stupid like that, right? But I do believe that 2 of the 3 questions are like, if you've done any practice whatsoever, you'll be like, I've seen these before. I know how to do them. One of the questions is a little bit different, but is very similar to something we did on the assignment. And so again, in that sense shouldn't be hard and is way easier than the assignment, right? But what I want to emphasize here is, you remember everyone, I've told you the story about like when you see a question, don't panic.
right? Especially if like you have some sort of trigger from it or whatever. Like, just don't panic, take a second, calm down, think about what you're being asked to do. Don't freak out, okay? We don't want to make questions that are impossible for you to do. That's not our goal. We don't want to make trick questions. That's not our goal. I don't think there's any value into asking students trick questions or questions that require a trick or something stupid like that, right? Yeah, Brandon, did you not put it in RREF? You only put it in REF when you row reduced? Is that what you, or you did do it and you just didn't answer 7 correctly? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about too. Because yeah, one of the things that we had is that a bunch of students put it only in row echelon form and not reduced row echelon form. The whole point of that assignment was to get you to see that if you put together the row operations, which give you the identity matrix, then that actually gives you the inverse, right? Like, so you can actually compute the inverse that way via that row reduction step.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like, that's true, Brandon, that's right. And hopefully you'll get like a half mark for that. But like, the definition of the inverse is it is the matrix that you multiply by to get the identity, right? And so we did want you to say those words, inverse. Yeah. Okay, and also very important note, everyone, question 1 has a huge hint at the end of it. Okay, so if you don't, like, this is why I'm saying when you read a question, don't just start doing the questions, right? Make sure you read the entire question carefully. And in fact, you should read all the questions, right? Don't just read question 1 and then start question 1. Read question 1, read question 2, read question 3. Yes, question 1 on the test has a big hint, but it's at the bottom of all the parts, right? So there are a couple of parts to question 1, and then there's a big hint at the bottom of the last part. If for all the questions, if you just immediately start doing the questions, you won't see the hint, okay? So you have to read question 1 carefully, make sure that you see the hint, because it will make your lives much easier for the first couple of parts. Okay, does that make sense? I don't think that's I don't think that's like a spoiler at all. The hint tells you exactly which parts it applies to. The hint will tell you exactly which parts you can use it for. Yeah. So, but this is what I'm saying. Like, I don't think this is a spoiler at all. I'm just saying, basically, read the questions carefully. If we do think that sometimes a student might get tripped up on something, we will give you a hint. In that hint as well, we tell you, like, I say things like, this is not supposed to be complicated. If you find yourself writing 2 pages for the answer, that's too long. Your answer should be like 3 or 4 lines. And again, I tell you precisely which parts that applies for. So read that ahead of time so you know what our expectations are what our expectations are of you for each of those parts, right? A matrix invertible. So first of all, a matrix is invertible only if it's square and has full rank, right? And what it means, so stupid pen. So a matrix is invertible if there is another matrix. A is invertible if there exists, no, I can't use that symbol. You don't know what that means. If there exists a matrix, which we call A inverse, such that when you multiply them together on either side, this one, it actually doesn't matter, you get the identity matrix out, right? So that's what it means to be invertible. And the reason that we use this is that if you're trying to solve this equation, AX equals B, and you multiply both sides by the inverse, then you can solve for X just by doing matrix multiplication instead of having to do any row reduction, right? So that's the idea, is that you can put A on the, it's like dividing by a matrix, only you're not allowed to divide by matrices. That's not a thing, but it's the corresponding analog of division in that you can move the A from the left-hand side to the right-hand side through the inverse. Does that make sense, Connie? Perfect, beautiful. Okay, everyone, it is 7 o'clock. I do have some stuff to do before I start organizing the test. Thank you, everyone. Very much good luck. I hope, like, don't freak out, don't panic. Read the test before, as soon as it goes live. I'm confident that any of you who have like worked hard and practiced will do well on it, will do fine. And yeah, like, I have nothing but confidence in you. Yeah, no problem, no problem. Good luck. regardless of how the test goes, have a good weekend. Even, you know, some people have bad tests sometimes. That's life. Don't worry about it. Have a good weekend either way. I will see you on the other side, and I will be monitoring Piazza for the first couple of hours tonight. Okay, so throw any questions you have up there, and I'll answer them pretty quickly. Okay. All right. See you everyone later. See you, Aziz.
See you, Tyler.
Ciao, everyone.